We've had a great series of presentations this morning, and thank you all for running to time. We do have now about 15 minutes for them all to come back up and sit up here, please. Are you still there, Mark? Yeah. Is everybody still here? Karin? Yeah. And this is really a time for everyone from the floor. Barry's here. Yeah, we've got 4. And Keith, amazingly, is still here. Well done, Keith. Now, we've got a roving mic. Is Jack out there somewhere? There he is. So, who wants to go first? There was someone right by where you are now. The pink shirt wanted to ask something earlier. Do you want to kick us off? You had a question, I think, was it to Mark?
It's not a technical question.
Good.
I just would like if the wonderful results of our Chinese friend would be the same if the elementary rules of the monetary market would be respected. I'm talking about the exchange rate between the Chinese money and the others.
Can you repeat the question, please?
He's effectively asking about whether you find operating from China their monetary exchange rates, and particularly the fact that the renminbi is not a globally convertible currency, whether you find that inhibits or over-supports, perhaps, your business operations based in the mainland.
Well, I'm not really in a position to answer that question. I'm so far removed from that element of our business operation. I wouldn't be able to offer you any substantial answer on that question, really. Sorry.
I think it's another forum for that one.
Yeah.
But it's a question that won't go away for fair time, I think it's fair to say. Who else have we got? Anyone else? Okay, Neil, yeah. Can we hit, I tell you what, you can use this one, because you're this end of the room.
I just wanted to ask about a really important question that came up yesterday about the speed of change. We were all talking about how fast things are moving and digital, etc. What Volga said about the speed of change outside a business and the speed of change inside. If the two aren't in sync, then the end is in sight. Do you think, as a kind of industry, that we're actually moving fast enough in terms of, you know, how we're adapting to digital and adapting to customer requirements and things like that?
Who wants to go first on that?
That could be all of you or any of you.
Barry,
well,
you were talking of change a lot.
Perhaps kick off first. I think the biggest obstacle we found to progress in the early stages with digital printing, well, 2 obstacles. One was internal, because we've got a company that's very much used to doing things in its own way, a lot of very long service employees. So there was a resistance internally, but I have to say I was surprised at how much resistance we found from our customers, whose minds were also set in doing things a certain way for a very long period of time. And we, in the end, ended up taking on a couple of effectively designers, young designers from college, to actually just start creating designs that we could actually offer on a plate to some of our customers, just to try and kickstart the process, because I think they were having problems thinking outside the box. But in a sense, there's a bigger issue that we're in a very traditional industry, whereas we're designing for brands who sell to retailers who then sell on to consumers. And of course, the other thing I'm very mindful of is that there's a whole new industry being created of people who are offering bespoke solutions. This idea of actually very, very short runs. I think Spoonflower have done a fantastic job in the States. Digitex here in the audience here as well, as a company that couldn't have existed, I guess, in its current format without digital printing. So, in a sense, it's trying to get everybody coming along, and I think the longer people have been doing things a certain way, the harder they find it often to take the blinkers off and do things in a different way. And so it's, from our side, it's been a fair bit of push for our customers, but there's also a hell of a lot going on outside our little sector of the industry.
From our perspective, we've always been 100% digital, so we haven't had that crossover. But our clients have embraced it, and certainly in the grand format area, it's opened up new opportunities for our clients. you know, just one job comes to mind, which we just done recently for Ford, which was 500 billboards, all printed on vinyl, but 25 different creatives. You know, once upon a time that probably wasn't achievable for the cost factor that they can now do it. So, you know, there's many areas in the digital side of things where people are embracing it. There's no doubt that in time it's the future. I get a bit of a sneak preview of what's happening. I'm actually on the customer advisory board for Grand Format for HP, so you know, to see what they're working on in the future is just mind-boggling. It's you know, it's and another 12 months, and then another 12 months after that, and another 12 months after that. You're just going to see some technology advances that are just mind-boggling. So yeah, it's no doubt that's the future.
If you want to give us all a clue, we'll keep it quiet, Keith.
Yeah, I think there's some HP people here. I'll probably be hung. And
Can I just ask a supplementary to that? Maybe it's a supplementary. I was very struck by what Stephen said last night as a pretty important marketing guy. He said he really wants to engage with the industry peer-to-peer. And I was struck by that phrase. Are a lot of people getting in the way? I mean, maybe Karin, as a designer, you may feel that there are too many obstacles for you to get right to decision makers and the real customer. And Keith, you made one or two remarks about those very fine folks in advertising agencies. I mean, is it sometimes better for you to have a peer-to-peer relationship? Be interesting.
Yes, it is, and but it's something that Neil brought up yesterday, and Neil, I'm one of your biggest fans, I might add. It's I touched on it today. Where I see a lot of younger people, and hopefully I'm not that old myself, but at the end of the day, some of them lack in the art of communication, and I can't stress how important that is from a client relationship. And you know, we've won numerous jobs by going to speak with the client, working through their issues and their perceived issues, working in conjunction with design agencies, just to let them know that what this medium is actually capable of achieving.
Yeah.
And it's just very, very important. And as I say, I can't stress enough the communication aspect. And I just feel sometimes with all the social media, it's becoming a lost art. And it certainly gives us a hell of an advantage in Australia because it's something we really, really push with our staff.
Mark, have you a comment on this?
Yeah, for us at the development level, it's like Keith says, it's communication is paramount importance. And when people are in the middle, let's say the agents or brokers or these merchandisers, and we don't have access to the designer or the developers, then a lot of things either get lost in translation, or as Keith pointed out, the communication skills and the ability to translate the true message that comes from these designers and developers of the overall effect or intention this graphic or print is supposed to project. Having that peer-to-peer relationship really helps us be much more efficient in delivering on the customer's request. Absolutely.
In our business, I think for us it's key to speak to the decision makers. If you make a design, if there's too many in between, it takes up so much time. But it's also with the printers and the suppliers that we work with. We go to them and see what they can do and brainstorm together how we can improve things or make it better.
There was a saying in the ad industry that the quality of advertising rose in direct proportion to the seniority of the client who made the decision. And all too often, you didn't get to senior people quick enough. And death by 1,000 cuts when you start with the assistant brand manager and work your way through that chain can be a nightmare. And I guess in this industry, there's an exact parallel with the design. Kui, you're waiting to ask a question.
Yes, I'd like to add to this subject, peer-to-peer. We do encounter problems internally by the speed of change. Technology-wise, of course, perfect solutions with machineries and equipment, But in our situation, my staff is growing at the office level, not on a production level. But if I encounter young generation managers who are used to the speed of, we've seen all the presentations, how it changed, the communication, how Google affect our life. So we make more and more mistakes in our process handling. So not the machinery, not the product quality, but the process handling. The information goes too fast. They expect us to print on a short release time. So I was wondering, and I shared it with some of my colleagues, managing the information, making sure, I know that if you have a huge company and where you have the lean management system, like you said, you have to measure it in order to manage it, but sometimes you have processes which need accurate time, but sometimes they don't give you the time. So we do encounter problems with the speed of change. That's just a comment.
We need someone young to speak up. It seems to be all the fault of the young. But maybe there is a generational difference. But the digital natives have grown up in a different era with different expectations and different communications talents. Here we go. Yep. Someone's waving. Sorry. It's...
Maybe we have to have some discussion about the IT stuff in your company, because I think most print companies don't spend too much on IT. And if it comes to your company, I think it sounds a little bit different. How much of your turnover in percentage is spent on IT stuff? And how many people are working on the IT side?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah.
We have half a dozen IT staff. We have one dedicated person full-time on our production systems. That's been updated daily. You know, things change. So we do spend a lot of time with IT and processes and systems. We try to automate things as much as we possibly can. The processes are very different to be able to print 20,000 square metres a month to 150,000 square metres a month. As I say, we strive to become more automated, and IT is a big part of that. So yeah, we do spend a lot of time and effort with an IT people.
Manufacturers have enough knowledge to give you the right figures out of their printers to do the things you want on the moment?
It's a good question, because I think manufacturing companies of printers in the past have been guilty of getting a machine half right and then expecting the end user to be able to iron out all the faults and the problems going forward. And it's very different in an R&D situation to having a machine in a commercial situation where you're expecting it to run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and seamless and faultless. But things in that area are improving. There's no two ways about that. From my own knowledge with what's going on with HP, it's the days have gone by where they're expecting the customer to iron out all the faults and the problems with machinery. But, you know, once again, it's up to us also to be able to tell a manufacturer what we require. You know, it's, for instance, loading of machines. In the past, it's been an absolute chore to load a roll of vinyl onto a machine. And once again, you use it in that commercial situation, and we go back to the manufacturer and say, look, if you've done this, this is going to make our job a hell of a lot easier. In terms of head technology, in terms of quality requirements. We work very closely with the manufacturers, and you know, we can give them as much help as what they can give us.
We've got one from Ronan, and then I'll have to make that the last one, because Neil is going to make some closing remarks and talk about the Mayfair after that. So, Ronan, do you have any experience with IT and HP?
Let me think. So, yeah. I think I'd like to comment on the comment that Herman was saying here and joining the panel. Definitely, I fully agree that in order to activate all those cross-media, transmedia, combining digital and printing in one campaign, doing a real CRM using real big data and database of customers of big brands, there needs to be the capability to handle all this data and to do the personalization, individualization, versioning, all that, in order to activate, needs IT. What we see in the market is that the customers that make big investments in this direction are the ones that actually execute in those manners. No IT investment will not get to all these big words of getting my message in my place, in my time, all the things we talked about yesterday, all the right personalization and direct marketing. Now, this is a statement that I make from my observation, based on my experience and customers I've seen making investment and what they've been able to do with it. Now, the question whether manufacturers like HP or companies with some experience in IT like us, will we go in this direction? The answer is yes. The answer is we see the responsibility for end-to-end workflow and printing solution, and some of the recent acquisitions we've made will contribute to that.
Okay, on that happy note, I think we'll draw it to a close. I think we owe a big round of applause to our panel this morning. Not everybody this morning was in sparkling form first thing, for reasons that one can only guess at. But you've all performed extraordinarily well. It's been a terrifically lively session, and I think it's been lovely how all the themes you talked about have overlapped. So a big hand, please, for this morning's speaker.